Welcome back, one and all. We are yet again here with a double feature of Kamen Rider Revice episodes. So, I was busy last week, so I didn't have time to record for last week's episode, but I am back with a double feature of episodes because this is the first two-parter for Geats. Yeah, this is the first Geats two-parter. If you're unaware, Kamen Rider typically uses a two-part episode structure for most of its episodes, and this is the first one for Geats. And I'm also noticing the naming theme for these episodes. This is the second and third episode of the Chance Meeting arc, which I guess is the intro for this battle that's going on with the Kamen Riders, or the first part of the DGP. We'll see about other parts later. But yes, so we are on episode 2, Zombie Hunting. Episode 2, episode 3, Chance Meeting 2, Zombie Hunting, and episode 4, Chance Meeting 3, Conditions for Victory. So yeah, let's go over those episodes, starting of course with the third episode, which is titled Chance Meeting 2, which is not confusing at all. Alright, so our episode begins with everyone basically reeling over the events of the last episode, the previous one, before they are told of a new game. Well, essentially, they're told of a new game, the new part of the DGP. The second part, which is a zombie hunting challenge. Everyone is sent in to do some things. Well, first off, we have, obviously, the characters doing some things, such as Kawa, who is worried about his almost boss, and how he died. Maybe he might not be dead, because Kawa believes that they can use the game to revive him, or at least that Kamen Riders can come back, although he's told the Kamen Riders are different. We also learn that Kawa makes a video diary, as well as obviously the DGP is kept secret, so if you reveal the DGP exists, you will be punished and removed from the game, as Kawa finds out when, Little Miss Announcer comes in his room when he's doing his video diary. So they're watching you at all times. That's not scary at fucking all. We also have stuff with Neon. This two-parter focuses a lot on Neon, and which we learn we already knew that she was doing her live streaming stuff, but she also has a pretty shitty household, as she really desperately wants to escape her mother and father, although we don't see the father, we only see the mother, and she basically wants to escape so she can live a normal life, or at least a less constrained life, as she does her YouTubing or live streaming stuff while doing her escapes, which she meets up with Ace at one point, and he makes a joke about her live streams being how they keep finding her, and that's a good ass point. That's a good ass point, Ace. Yeah, of course they keep finding her because you keep live streaming your location. But I mean, I guess you're a YouTuber, so I guess you kind of gotta do that. So it's funny because Ace is such a superstar. Even Neon's bodyguards are fans of his, and so they basically decide to stop trying to drag her home and try to get Ace's autograph. And it's also funny because the group that was outside the cafe where this happens, they're all like, "Oh my god, it's the Neon and Ace crossover we all wanted." And I was like, yeah, that's totally something someone would actually want in this world, considering that these two are super popular online celebrities, or Ace is just a straight up celebrity. Of course people want them to have a fucking crossover episode. But anyway, they get the call to go to the DGP, and then they begin the zombie hunting game. So, standard zombie rules. These Jamato are zombies, so they have to go down and save people from the area that the zombies are infected, and be better zombies to prevent a global catastrophe. So that proceeds with everyone going down to do the big fight. And it's funny because Ace makes a bet with Buffa. I refuse to pronounce his name because I just cannot. That he'll get more points to him on this round because this is a 3-round game. So if he gets more points, he will take Buffa's zombie. He'll take his zombie, I forget what they're called, buckle. He'll take his zombie buckle, which, that's a nice ass bet. So they go down to do their fighting, fight, and then the first round is over. So it's interesting for a lot of reasons because of what happens. Also, Kayla completes a secret mission and gets his hands on the boost buckle, and for a whole week everyone was joking about how lucky he is, but he still doesn't use it. I mean, obviously, as we know, the boost buckle is a one-time use item, so, best to use that when you're on the last round, is all I can say. Anyway, the group is sent back, and Neon decides to ask about pay-to-win items, in which case, there are no pay-to-win items. You can get cosmetic costumes, but the buckles themselves are not for sale, which... Damn, the DGP, the game that literally kills people, has more integrity than fucking EA. Of course it does. Anyway, I just found that joke hilarious. Of course, Neon would immediately try to, pay to win, considering she's rich. But, obviously, it's not going to work because then, obviously, rich people will win. Anyway, we get a lot out of, Dupan, or Kanato, I think that's how you say his name, this week, or these 2 weeks, these 2 episodes, as he's the major focus for these 2 episodes, or at least the antagonistic focus. As we learn at the end of the episode, as he basically tries to trick Neon into getting bitten by the zombies, he himself got bit in the first round because he was a very bad sniper. He didn't move position while he was shooting and just stayed in one spot, and the zombies swarmed him and bit him. And as such, he'll be turning into a zombie. He also arranges for Neon to get bit because, he dragged her into a pit and had her nearly devoured by the zombies, as he has gone full nihilistic. As we learn his backstory, he was a former basketball player who got hit by a car and lost the ability to play basketball thanks to the accident. And in the shot that's very, don't come to school tomorrow, He's shown having the Magnum buckle in his bag, surrounded by his classmates who pay him no mind. So you can tell this kid is dangerous with a capital D, and obviously we learn his wish is to create a world without humans. So essentially, he wants to kill all humans to create a completely dead world to avenge his nihilism. Oh boy, I'll talk about him in a second when we get to the very end of this round. But that is the second episode. As we move on to that is the third episode as we move on to episode 4. Episode 4, Chance Meeting 3, Conditions of Victory, begins where the last one left off. Everyone's kind of in a bit of a funk, except for Buffer, who couldn't really give a shit, and Mary, who's basically like, look, this is the way the game is played. Obviously, Kayla wants to try his best to try to save Neon, and Ace is being Ace. And so you can tell he kind of wants to save Neon, but, he's Ace, so he's being kind of Cinderella about that shit. But because the third round's taking a while, everyone's allowed to go home for a quick second. So they all go home, in which case we see a bit more of Neon's rather abusive home life. And we get a bit of a flash about why it's the way it is. And honestly, a quick flash, which is honestly really good. We find out Neon was actually kidnapped as a child, as some people wanted her rich family's money, as you do, so they kidnapped the child. And yeah, that is Neon's backstory and why her mother is so freaking protective, and apparently also her father, but we don't see the man, so he doesn't exist at this time. He's just a name, or an ethereal being that has to exist because of reasons. Anyway, the mother is very concerned. She's not abusive because she's a dick. She's just very concerned because of the former kidnapping on her fucking child, which makes a lot of sense. But Neon continues to want to escape, leaving her house yet again, despite her mother telling her not to. Kayla and Ace meet her outside of her home as she flees yet again, and they have a bit of a moment where Kayla says that he wants to help Neon because his sister would be sad if she died, not noting the fact that he would be sad because he's Kayla and he's basically the emotional bedrock of the series right now. And he hands her the boost buckles for her to use to fight the zombies, as Ace points out, the damage done during the DGP matches is always fixed by the end of the match. So if they're able to defeat the zombies before Neon turns into a zombie, then she herself can be saved. Japan makes a deal with Buffa and hands Buffa the Magnum buckle, and Panda decides to go after the other riders, trying to bite them and turn them into zombies so that he can get his goal of eliminating humanity, at least via way of zombie attack. He attacks Mary, who tries to get bonus points because this is a points game, in the way that Kayla did by saving people, although it's humorous scene, so obviously he kind of fails at it, especially because he only has the shield as a weapon. And it goes bad when Depan jumps in and attacks him. Depan tries to attack Neon again, with Ace backing her up, and Neon uses the boost buckle and the hammer buckle to basically make a giant rocket hammer to fight off a bunch of zombies and fight off her zombie infection. Neon is ultimately saved because they managed to beat all the zombies in time, but this is still a points game, so the person with the least amount of points loses. In this case, Depan. Depan has lost a number of points thanks to attacking other players, which is against the rules, so you get points deducted, and so he is eliminated as he loses his qualifications for being a Kamen rider. Now, we don't know what that means exactly, what losing your qualifications means, but obviously it can't be good because he's just gone, possibly dead, and the episode ends with Neon returning home yet again and preventing and blocking her mother's slap and saying that she'll continue her attempts to escape her abusive household. At the same time, we are seeing the mysterious man behind the DGP who has a new mask now. Apparently, his mask resembled a character from Hellboy, so apparently they might have had to replace it for legal reasons. As he has stated, there is an oncoming clash between Buffa and Geats. Obviously, they have each other's main buckles now, so that might be what the fight's about. But as everyone points out, hey, isn't it a little too early for the main rider and main rival to have this big confrontation? But I mean, this is probably going to be the first confrontation to have. I mean, how many confrontations were there in Gaim between Gaim and Baron? Let's be honest, these two are going to fight a lot if Buffa continues to be a major presence in the story. Anyway, yeah, that was the episodes. So, what do we think about them? I'm going to be honest, I kind of really like these two episodes. I liked the format of it being a zombie game. Obviously speaking, each of the various games in the DGP will be different games. So, doing a zombie game right off the bat, especially considering the fact that this is the premiere of, Gates using the zombie buckle, is a pretty good thing. It also leads to some really cool imagery, and the Yamato zombies are kind of creepy because when their mouths open, it's a weird effect, and it's like, oh no, keep that closed. So yeah, I do like the ideas behind this battle. I kind of like also the fact that we don't have a main boss monster this time around. It's just the zombies. Again, it's a zombie eliminating game. We don't need a giant... it would be cool to see a T variant Yamato, but we don't need it. This is just basic zombies eliminating Yamato. Now, I also like that there are a lot of hint drops for future character arcs. Obviously, we have Kayla continuing to fight for... basically, Kayla's entire arc is learning to fight for a desire. Very fucking O's of you, very agey of you, Kayla. Learning to fight for a desire, as well as, him coming to terms with how basically fucked being in the DGP is, considering that you have to fight to survive at the minimum of it all. We also have Neon's story. I'm happy we got a character focus on Neon right away. I mean, technically speaking, we had the character focus on Kayla for the past two episodes, but I swear they would maybe give the character focus back to Ace, considering the fact he is technically the main character, even though Kayla is basically framed as the main character. Again, it's very Kabuto-esque right now. But again, I am happy that Neon got the major character focus, especially considering the fact that the show is basically showing this trinity of Neon, Ace, and Kayla as the principal characters for the show, and I'm down with that. I do like this trinity of characters and this kind of Kayla outwardly being helpful dynamic, Neon wanting to rely on people and wanting to fight around herself, and Ace basically giving you basically pulling a fucking Kabuto and allowing you to have the chance to fight on your own, but also backing you up if you need the help. But also being dick about it because his name is Ace. Again, very Kabuto-esque. I love it. Anyway, speaking of Neon, I do like the fact that we got a very brief flashback of the reasoning for her treatment. Like, it was quick, effective, and basically told us everything we need to know. Kidnapped as a kid, and now her family is very protective of her as their treasure and stuff like that. But that protection and care has turned the other coin, or flipped the other dial, and become downright abusive and confining, which is something she's trying to escape from in order to live her own life and fight for her own love. Which, hey, it's a motive. I also liked the stuff between Ace and Buffa. Again, I'm probably not going to pronounce his name right, so I'm not even going to try. I did like their stuff. Again, they feel like two people who are going to have a Optimus Megatron, I will fucking murder fight you forever situation if, Buffa continues to go through the rest of the series as the main rival character. Mary continues to do much of nothing, but he's a joke character right now. I do like the fact he tried to mimic Keiwa's earnest bonus points method, and, obviously he's an opportunist. Eventually he'll get his focus episode, maybe as an antagonistic character for that focus episode, but until we get to then, he's just a funny side character. As for Dupin, the main focus, at least main antagonistic focus, I kind of liked it. It was, obviously speaking, with any game like this setup where you have one wish granted, you're gonna want to put in the character who's an asshole, has the asshole wish of I want to rule the world or I want to destroy the world, and they decided to do it with Dupin. And yeah, it makes sense. Dude went full on straw nihilist after having his leg injured and not being able to play basketball. Now, in the flashbacks were shown, or at least the scenes were shown, he's never shown with any friends or anything that show concern over him. So it's led to me have this implication that was kind of an arrogant asshole at some point, or at least was somewhat arrogant about his position on the basketball team. And as such, when that was taken away from him, he really had nothing left because that was the source of his pride. In a very Vegeta sense, with his pride broken, he decided to say fuck it all and end all life. Or at least all human life. And I like it, he was actively working towards that, trying to get Neon bitten, which he succeeded in, and even going as far as to bite Mary himself, while going along with Buffa, or at least making a plan with Buffa. Mainly because he sees Buffa as the one who closely matches his own ideals in a way, or at least one of the ones he had actually talked to that isn't a bleeding heart like the others. Obviously, Kay was a bleeding heart, and Mary might not be a bleeding heart. He's kind of an asshole, but he's not a bleeding heart character. So yeah, it is interesting to see that he immediately singled out Buffa as the character to go along with his plans the most. Because Buffa doesn't really care as long as he can win the DGP. That's his main goal. We don't know why he wants to win yet, but I'm hoping we figure it out sooner rather than later. Speaking of Dupin, he's obviously gone. It makes me question some things, because we already know next week we're going to have a fill-in writer that I don't know if they're going to be a permanent mainstay, or if I've heard people refer to them as a kind of AI, or at least a cis character, considering the fact it's a team match next time, and the numbers are uneven, so they need an extra hand. It makes me wonder if they're going to do that with other characters, or is this just a special case, or if he's from some other DGP version and he's just being integrated into theirs. I am curious as to what Pump Jack represents for the rest of the series, especially considering the fact that they basically mentioned him by name about his position and why he's there to basically fill out numbers. So yeah. Overall, Geats continues to be really good. This is written by the dude that did X8 and 01, and both of those series had pretty good beginnings. Although, if you ask me, I'll talk about X8 when I talk about X8, but just a preview of that, I think X8's beginning is probably its weakest part. Don't hate me, it's a good show overall. The beginning of it's the weakest part, which that just means the rest of it's fucking phenomenal. Again, I'll give full X8 thoughts on the X8 episode. But as for this episode, again, good beginning. We got what we needed to. We also moved the buckles around a bit, and it was cool to see, someone else besides Ace use the boost buckle. I'm kind of wondering if Kayla will use it at some point. Also, other things that make me question things. So we saw them use an armored weapon as a leg piece for the first time in the series, and the hammer grew bigger as a leg piece. So it makes me wonder, why use the hammer as a headpiece? I mean, as a headpiece when the leg piece gives you a bigger hammer, or was it just because the boost buckle was there? Either way, that gave them very big Amy Rose vibes with that. Now we've already had leaks of Keiwa's kind of official buckle, and it makes me wonder if Neon's going to last long enough in the game to get her own semi-official buckle or anything like that, instead of her just using the buckle weapons, which according to Toei and other sources don't actually count as forms. They're just additional weapons, which I think is a pretty cool distinction between stuff like hammer and something like buckle. I mean, I said buckle. I mean, something like the hammer buckle and something like the magnum buckle. Although if there's a gun buckle out there, wouldn't that just make Magnum the stronger version of that? Yeah. Anyway, that is it for Gates. Again, since I like this episode, and I will see you all next time. Until then, everybody.